Welcome to Blinkers Off with your hosts, Jared Welch and Aaron Halterman.
What is up? What is up? I'm Jared Welch. He's Aaron Halterman. It is Thursday, August 29th, and this is Blinkers Off. What's up, man?
Yes, the post-Travers Blinkers Off. We're done with the Travers and on to the holiday weekend of racing. I don't know if you felt the same way when you were kind of getting set up for this weekend, the long weekend, but man, oh man, there is a lot going on these next 4 days.
Yeah, and I mean, not to depending on how you feel about it, right? But you got Kentucky Downs throwing in there as well, and you got just random $3 million, $1.5 million races just left and right. You got Breeders' Cup races. I mean, across the board, and we're in that season now, Ultraman, that every weekend there's big time Breeders' Cup races, that prep races. That actually, not to say they don't mean anything early on, but these are like you're really starting to hone in on who's going, where they're aiming, those kind of horses. And so week in and week out, whether it be even races like the Travers that aren't necessarily gearing towards that, but like we all know that those horses are probably going to go towards that classic or at least the big one. So yeah, we're real each and every week. Not only do we learn something about these horses, but we're getting closer to the main event, which is, of course, the Breeders' Cup.
Yeah, and it's weird. Used to, I would think September was kind of a lull. But when you look at what's going on in September this year, it's like this is actually an awesome September. You know what I mean? Like you got the Pennsylvania Derby and the Cotillion, which is setting up to be pretty good. Kentucky Downs is really great. You got Del Mar running that extra week. I know they've done that in the past, but that I think that helps. You have Del Mar next week as well. They delay the Pacific Classic until it's August 31st, but that's basically September once the Travers ends. And then you get the California Crown down out at Santa Anita in the month. So September with the Breeders' Cup, obviously in the run up to that leading in, it just feels a lot better than it used to be for whatever reason. I'm like pumped for September racing where usually it's a little bit of a lull. So like I said, Breeders' Cup shaping up, great racing all across the country. They kind of spread out now. It's not just at Saratoga, at Del Mar, they're at everywhere. So it's going to be exciting and off the cusp of what was a very exciting Travers.
Oh, okay. And that's a good segue as we obviously have a big weekend with the Pacific Classic. You got another filly / mare going to try against the boys this time in the Pacific Classic with the Dare Manor. So we got that to talk about. Of course, we've got Del Mar, Kentucky Downs, Saratoga, the 2-year-old racing is getting going as well. You'll be in Saratoga as again, back-to-back weekends. So, but let's talk about when we were there last weekend for the Travers. And, listen, guys, we were there live and we've been there for many Travers and you and I both, we watched it separately at the track, different spots anyways, but and we both lost, right? Because we both had Torpedo in them. And we came back and we saw each other that was classic. That was no matter how the day went before, no matter how Sunday went the next day, that race alone, that stretch alone made the trip worth going. It was just an incredible race.
Yeah, it's what you want to see in a major race. I mean, the Travers, obviously the biggest race of the meet there at Saratoga, and it had the hype of, hey, we got the big 3-year-olds taking on the girl and who can win? Is she going to be good enough? And all this stuff. And when you have that kind of setup, you don't want to see, batten down win the race or corporate power win the race. I mean, unless you bet them, obviously, but you want to see the stars come out. And really 3 of the top 4 horses ran their race. Dornoch didn't run all that well, but Fierceness, Torpedo Anna, and Sierra Leone put on a show. They all 3 ran very well, and they all 3 ran winning type races. But I think the thing that really made it special was the filly and what she did in the stretch, because I looked to Vinny and a couple other people that I would kind of standing around, and I was like, wow, Fierceness is going to freak. He's going to win by 3 or 4 lengths. And she's going to run okay here. You could tell she was kind of firing, but it wasn't she's going to threaten to win. She looked like she was a 3 or 4 length loser. And then all of a sudden for that stretch, the whole building shook, right? And things lit up because with every stride, as Frank Mirahmadi so perfectly put, she was making up the ground and she made it into just an incredible last 100 yards of that race.
Yeah, we're watching the replay here. If you guys are watching this live, we're watching the replay, the Travers replay on the Naira YouTube page. But yeah, I mean, well, listen, for us, it wasn't as far as like the other horses that aren't named, Torpedo Anna, Fierceness, Sierra Leone, even Dornock, like they never really did anything in the race, right?
No.
Whatever. But when it came to those horses, you kind of got everything you wanted. Like you said, I think Dornock is the only one where you're like, yeah, he didn't necessarily fire, I don't think, but he's still a good enough horse where he finished fourth. But yeah, Sierra Leone did his thing. He comes like I honestly thought right here in the race, I was like, he's going to be dangerous because he's finally closer to the pace.
Yeah.
And might actually have a chance here. And really here it looked like I didn't know that Torpedo Anna as they get close to the top of the stretch. I said, like she's there. I just don't. Is she gonna have that kick? And really, and then like you said, the call with Frank was the same, like how we felt, where it's like he kind of was calling it like, yeah, she's running well. She's probably gonna run second, but Fierceness is doing his thing like he does, because we've used to seeing when he pulls away. And then it got exciting, like, oh my gosh, she's gaining on him, like
Yep.
right here.
Yep.
She's getting closer. She's every stride she's getting closer, and I thought she's gonna get there. I was like jumping up and down like the person at the track.
I never thought until about 2-3 strides before the wire she was actually going to get there. But man, when it started getting closer and closer, I thought, oh my God, like she's going to do this. And how epic is this going to be if she runs down this horse? You can't say enough good things about Fierceness and Torpedo Anna. I do want to mention a horse that I think has gotten extremely unlucky up here at Saratoga, and that's Sierra Leone. 2 races back, he ran his career best race, and Fierceness decided to fire. And then again in this one, he ran his career best race, and he just could not beat these 2 horses. I mean, you look at Sierra Leone, he's right there, man. He's almost there again. And you just got to think, if Fierceness didn't come back very well and the filly didn't, try the boys, he could have won both these races in prior years, but he ran into such monsters both times. I mean, a 111 buyer for the first and second place finishers of this race, Fierceness and Torpedo Anna. And we talked about it after the race was over at dinner. We're like, if you would have told me Torpedo Anna was going to run a 111 buyer and lose, we would have told you crazy. What if we would have told you Sierra Leone ran a 107 and got third? We probably would have called you crazy again, So as much as we do like to give him, I don't really give him shit, but just like, hey, he's pace compromised, this, and this. He brings it every time, and you got to give him credit as well. But again, he's just not as good as those top 2. And really, quite frankly, if they run that kind of race, there's not many that are as good as those top 2.
I mean, look at their faces there. Like how covered in mud he is compared to dirt, like compared to those 2. It's just he's kind of his own worst enemy in terms of, he puts himself in tough spots of these races, and then but he, like you said, like literally every race, he doesn't have that. Well, he didn't really like Dornock, like he didn't really kind of fire. And, he fires every time, and it's just we've preached about it on this show. I feel like every time we talk about him, it's like he's kind of, and you might be right where it's like it might feel like you want to shit on him a little harder just because he doesn't get there, but at the same time, like, he's as true as they come. Like, if you think the race will completely melt down, which a lot of people did, everyone, where was the pace? Where was the pace? And it's like, well, these jockeys know what they're doing most of the time, right? And they knew that they can't go, and certain horses didn't go. And listen, from 2 guys that were big time Fierceness backers in the Derby, he's an annoying horse, man. Like, you cannot deny he is very talented, extremely talented. Like, he's the best 3-year-old in the crop, I think. But gosh, I mean, where the hell was this in the Derby? Where the hell was the Jim Dandy? Like, he finally looks like he's figuring it out, because the way he won this race was professional. He set off of it. He set outside, which I think is a big key of this as well. That Johnny V is like making sure to keep him. They're basically sacrificing extra ground, extra work, so to speak, just to get the horse in a spot that, he's going to be comfortable. But again, like, we not to go on back to the Derby, but I thought he got a pretty good trip that day too. And he just kind of, didn't, he just packed it in. So he's been a frustrating horse, to say the least. But man, I mean, he held off a horse like her that obviously is very, 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 very talented. One of the best fillies we've had in a long time. Pretty incredible.
Yeah. I mean, the Fierceness thing, to start with that, I really, truly, and honestly believe Johnny V is got it figured out. And I said it to you before the Jim Dandy when I saw that interview, and he's like, look, I don't know what it is, this, that, and the other. We're trying all these things. Todd doesn't know all this stuff. He goes, I'm just going to let him do whatever the hell he wants. He said, I'm going to keep him away from everybody, let him do whatever the hell he wants, and we'll see how that goes. And he did it twice, and it worked both times. So I think he's kind of got it figured out. And I think that is an advantage of a veteran rider like Johnny V. Some of these guys, it's just like, I'm going to do what I want to do on this horse, and we're going to blah, blah, blah. And I think Johnny V has been around long enough to know, look, every horse is different. And some of them, you just got to leave them alone and let them do their thing. And it worked out. And then also, obviously, he's doing well physically. Pletcher's got him right. And so it all kind of works together. But yeah. And I mean, look, for the filly, I mean, pretend again that Fierceness doesn't fire, and he does the every other thing, and he loses this race, and he's last like he had been in his previous ones after running a good one. We're sitting here talking about her, winning the Travers, and she's horse of the year, and she still could be, but neither one of them lost anything in defeat. That's for sure. And one thing I want to mention, because I'm not on social media, maybe people are talking about this. I think Frank Mirahmadi gave the best race call I've heard in a long time. And the reason I say that is so many of our big race calls, our big race callers, maybe I should say, they kind of script these big races. They have these lines.
Yep.
And Frank doesn't do that. And for that, I think it was the best ever, because I think what I like the best of a track announcer is when they kind of capture what you're thinking. And you could tell Frank didn't come out and say what you were thinking, but you could tell by the tone of his voice and the way he was calling, he was thinking the exact same things we were, because he gave a call at the top of the stretch like he was getting ready to call Fierceness as a big winner. And his voice cracks when he notices that Torpedo Anna is starting to gain. And that's when that true emotion of the track announcer comes out, then embodied the people watching. That's what makes a great race call to me. So I thought it was the best call I've heard. I can't, in the last 10 years, maybe I would say.
Yeah. It was incredible. And it's not one of those like, well, if you watch enough racing, you know who I'm talking about, but not one of those where it's like waiting for her to make her move and then has some line dialed up to say, like something about the girl coming, whatever. Like, it was not like that at all. It was just, and you said it exactly, and it's so timed right, where it's as soon as she starts to kind of, the whole world notices, oh, she's coming, she's coming to get him. He realizes it too, and it becomes, he kind of shifts from race caller to fan, to try to call it obviously as well, but you could tell he is legitimately excited and unknowing, is she going to get there? So it was just a really good, I mean, like I said, just an amazing, and yeah, like, I think obviously that what they're going to do. So the words are like, Fierceness is going to go straight to the Classic from here. She's going to go the Cotillion, to the distaff, if everything obviously goes, accordingly. Sierra Leone, who knows? I mean, I'm sure they're pointing to the Classic, but I don't know what, if there's going to be a race there in between, but and honestly, there's still a path for Fierceness to be horse of the year. I think, if you were to go and win the Classic, I mean, it's that would be losing the Derby is one thing, but Florida Derby, you've got the Jim Dandy, the Travers, and the Classic. That would be tough to beat too. So I think that obviously she's locked up 3-year-old filly, no question, that whatever. 3-year-old male, I mean, it's you and I went through this a lot over the weekend after the race. It's like, man, it's like Dornoch or Fierceness. It's kind of back and forth. It's like, well, he got the Travers, but Dornock has the Belmont and the Haskell. But so I think they're pretty close. If it was me, I'd vote Fierceness, but they're neck and neck. And so the next, if he's got one race left, I don't know if Dornock, if they're going to try to run him one more time between now and the Classic to try to get the lead over him, so to speak. I don't know, but that will be interesting to see who kind of comes out on top on that one.
From the reports I heard, and it's horse racing, things can obviously change. So don't say this as the gospel or anything like that. But I've heard Dornock, Sierra Leone, and Fierceness, all three now just going straight to the Breeders' Cup Classic. And to me, if that's how it shakes out, whoever finishes better between Fierceness and Dornock, that's going to be your 3-year-old champion. And that's probably how it should be, right? So, yeah, I mean, that's how that's going to go. And they both, like I said, are deserving. And let's see who can beat who one last time there in the Classic. That'll be kind of your determining factor there. And I mean, either one of them could win it. The Classic is not coming up all that strong. We do have a lot of male races coming on, older males, and so that's going to tell us a lot this weekend. We'll give you a lot clearer picture, but as of right now, I mean, they're in there with a shot, and who outraces who in that race is going to determine it. And like I said, a championship is going to be decided at the Breeders' Cup there, and then Horse of the Year probably going to be decided at the Breeders' Cup again. I know last week we were kind of skeptical, but now it more and more possible that it could be. And I think the filly's got a shot to win Horse of the Year, but she needs a little bit of help now. She needs like a City of Troy to win the Breeders' Cup Classic and keep one of those other high-profile American horses away from that Classic win on the resume.
Yeah, I think that's what's going to have to happen, because if she were to dominate the cotillion as expected and then wins the distaff, I mean, obviously she like we've talked about, she's forced to kind of win out, so to speak, and really not have any mistakes whatsoever and do it impressively to kind of have a chance. But yeah, I don't think she's out. I don't think she lost anything in defeat there, at least from the voters' eyes. I think if it came down to, like, are you voting National Treasure, who's lost a couple races and got second in the Classic or something like that, to City of Troy, or are you voting the filly who won every race except lost by nose, half a head in the Travers against the boys? I don't know. I think you might still lean towards her.
I think the only thing she lost is if it comes down between her and Fierceness, it's going to be Fierceness, right?
Yep.
That's all she lost in it. And I will say, I think some of the older horses are now in play more so than they were. Like an Arthur's Ride, if he was able to get a hot streak and win, a Dare Manor, I don't know what'll happen with her, what they're going to do. But I mean, there are some other horses that are in play now for sure, where they probably wouldn't have been if she would have won. It's not as simple for her now as win out and you're the Horse of the Year. And that's, something, it's racing, the difference of a nose there could cost her it. But at the end of the day, if she's Horse of the Year or not, the one thing she proved to everybody, she's a racehorse. And if she sees a horse out in front of her, she's going to go try to get that horse. And I think she gained a ton of respect from, at least even from me, who thought she would do exactly what she did, but from others as well.
You watch, Sierra Leone will go and win the Classic. And then basically, put a big screw you to these other two. It's like, well, now Sierra Leone throws his name in the mix for the 3-year-old honors, and that would be the one race he finally gets the job done. But we'll find out. Listen, I think Arthur's Ride. I don't know if you can get what the odds are overseas for him, Horse of the Year, but I think that's not a bad bet to backdoor your way into that. Because, I mean, listen, it wouldn't be this, because the Jockey Club is not an ultra strong race whatsoever on Sunday. He's already won the Whitney, dominant. He wins the Jockey Club, dominant, grade one, and say he goes and wins the Classic, 3 grade 1s to end the year in a year that we've had kind of like who wants it sort of,
Yeah.
I think that definitely could make a case to win that thing, and I'm assuming he's going to be pretty decent odds at the moment. So, by the way, speaking of Sierra Leone, that's got to be one of the worst Travers. And listen, he ran well, so I don't mean like he's a bad horse, but that's got to be one of the worst Travers favorites. Like the way he was bet was just insane.
Okay, I'll go on a little rant here. The way the way a lot of people were looking at that race was borderline insanity, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Everybody I talked to, oh, the pace is just going to be ridiculous in this race. It's like, why? Why are you saying that? Well, Fierceness has to go. Why? He didn't go in the Jim Dandy. And then I wish I had $1. I would be rich for every time I heard, well, the only way the filly has any shot is to go straight to the lead. Why? What race has she ever had to go to why would you have to do that? And so everybody like made up in their minds this weird situation where they were just going to fly. And it's just like, when does it ever really happen like that? And you can tell it's going to happen. Hardly ever. Like people I'm not saying ignore the pace. Don't ever do that. But people take it way too serious because it's very hard to predict what the actual pace is going to be. One horse could screw up the pace, right? One horse breaks a half step slow, gets behind. You thought he'd be on the lead. The whole thing's messed up, and it can happen. It happens all the time. But anyway, people were psychotic about this pace being so fast. And that's the only thing I can point to think that they thought Sierra Leone should be the favorite in the race, because it was bizarre. And I agreed with the morning line. I thought it would be close between Torpedo Anna and Dornoch for favoritism, and Sierra Leone. I couldn't believe it. And again, I was on record saying I'm not going to be shocked if he wins, but I think he's the fourth likely winner of the race. He was bet like he couldn't lose the race, and it's just like he hasn't won since the Bluegrass. And all the other horses are beating him and or other fields that are pretty good. And it's like, what are we? I just never got it. But again, I think a lot of people made up this scenario where this pace was going to be crazy, and it just simply didn't look like it to me on paper. And I didn't really play out like that,
Well, yeah, I mean, it was like the freaking, the Shug horse in the race. It was like, well,
I mean,
we don't want to bet if you don't like, well, I can't be Sierra Leone, but it was all based off the same logic of the pace is going to be insane. He's going to be much better priced than Sierra Leone. And it's like, if I had $1 for every time I heard about that horse over the weekend.
Well,
as well.
Finally, I told one of them, I was like, you're right. If the pace gets hot, Sierra Leone and Corporate Power are the ones that can pick up the pieces. But I said, in what world does, Corporate Power, win this race? Like, what race are you looking at? Well, if he runs straight, he never runs straight. Well, if he improves 20 links, is that what we want from this horse? I mean, I don't understand. He's like, well, I don't want to play Sierra Leone at this price when I can get, but I was like, yeah, but Sierra Leone should be that price and Corporate Power should probably be higher. Like, I don't know. I'd heard enough. I was just like, there's just not a world where this horse wins, period. Well, Samich picked him. I don't give a shit. Like, it's a terrible pick. It's awful. And the horse could have won. I've said horses are terrible picks before and they win, but it's just like, in what world, if the pace is going to collapse, are we not playing Sierra Leone here? So I don't know.
Yeah, it was bizarre. But like you said, the way that these horses were bet. There was times on the weekend where it's like, how is this horse's price? Like, it just feels too good to be true. And sometimes it worked out, and other times we're like, oh, that's why the horse wasn't bet. But all right, let's get into the weekend, because obviously lots to go over there. But the Travers weekend, incredible weekend, and incredible race. It's going to have a lot of implications as we move forward for the rest of the year. But let's get into today's show, which is going to be a look at Saturday's $1 million FanDuel Racing Pacific Classic at Del Mar. It's a win and you're in for the Breeders' Cup Longines Classic. And then we're going to get some rapid fire selections for the remaining major stakes action this weekend at Del Mar, Kentucky Downs, and Saratoga, including that race we just talked about a little bit there, the $1 million Jockey Club Gold Cup Stakes. Let's go. Wow, Nisos is still on the futures. That's crazy.
He's alive. He's back at the track. I know that. No work or anything, but he's there, which is a start.
You want a piece of that action?
No, I think what is he? 16. I think he's 16-1 to even start a race before the Breeders' Cup Classic.
I think that's even pretty bad odds, really.
Well, I mean, you think about it, it's August 29th. Yeah, that'll work. Let's pretend he has a work September 5th. Let's just throw out a date, right? Which I have no idea. But let's say he does. He'll have to work all of September and probably he'll need 5 or 6 works. So that puts you middle of October. So maybe if there's like an undercard race at the Breeders' Cup would kind of be what I would think he at best. And that's assuming that he starts working out. You really don't know when he's going to start. So I find it hard to believe he's going to have one start maybe, and it maybe be that undercard of the Breeders' Cup, that kind of thing. They could do like something like that to try to get him to the Malibu. Like the Malibu could be a goal. But
Malibu would be a pretty good spot for him, really, if he's good, if he's healthy.
I mean, would he not win that race by 5 if he's the horse that we saw? I mean,
For sure.
yeah. Well, I mean, unless some kind of crazy horse enters that race, you never know. Sometimes that'll get a monster, but the monster will probably be him.
I was going to say, he is the monster. I mean,
Yeah.
He should be on paper.
Yeah. Rodney, I'll put your comment up here. Mom, prep race. Imagine what that is. Malibu Pegasus was probably the path. Where I would hit the pause button is what Baffert horse in the last 2 years has hit a 3-race path like that. There's not been many. So,
No, but he's probably like the horse, like, basically how he's tracked out National Treasure this year.
Yes.
That's probably what he's hoping for
Totally
his 4-year-old campaign.
Yeah. In a perfect world, that's what's going to happen.
But,
for sure. Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see. A horse that can't stay on the track. Then also you look at like Arabian Night. He never could stay on the track, and obviously just never came back right. And so you never know with these horses, but that would be ideal.
Yep, for sure.
So we'll see.
And look, I mean, if pretend he's healthy, he's going to look tough in any of those races.
Well, yeah, I mean, if healthy, if he runs like what we've very, very short-lived, what we saw, then it feels like he's, it's unlimited what he might be able to do. But it just, unfortunately, health and being on the track is a huge part of being good, right? So you can be physically talented, but if you can't be on the track, can't stay on the track, then what's it really mean? So,
yep.
All right, Saturday at Del Mar, race number 10, the FanDuel Racing Pacific Classic Grade 1, worth $1 million, going a mile and a quarter for 3-year-olds and up. It is a Breeders' Cup win, and you're in for the Longines Classic. Of course, we're running later this year at Del Mar. Field of 9 lines up here, and last week we saw Philly try to face the boys in the Travers. We're going to see it again here with number 7, Adair Manor, the 5-year-old mare for Bob Baffert, attempting to take on 8 older males here. And you've got, it's really the way it looks on paper. Dr. Vinkman, who kind of is coming out party going long last time out, and then Adair Manor. But when I looked at this race, dude, she's going to be really tough if she runs like she did last time. Well, really any race, but that last race, especially, if she runs like that, she's going to be hard to beat.
Yeah, she's in really good form. I thought her last race was one of her best ever. I love horses that show versatility, and that's what she was able to do in the last one. Obviously, got to run down a little bit better horses, going a little bit longer this time. But I use the phrase "little bit" because I don't really know what's in front of her that's just super scary. I would start with that. When you look at this, Dr. Venkman is a horse that I think is very good, and Full Serrano, the 6 horse, is one that I think is. I'm not ready to call him very good, but I think he's got potential. He was in Argentina. He came over here and debuted in the United States last time out and looked very good over this track in an allowance race. We really don't know past that, but we've seen Sadler do this with horses before. So the 3 and the 6 certainly are scary. The other horses, is she not 1-9 to beat the other ones minus the 3 and the 6?
Oh yeah.
So I mean for a Grade 1 Pacific Classic, boy, did she draw a field that she should be able to handle. Her best race is going to put her right there.
And, we've only seen really since like, well, I mean, in recent history, we've only seen like really one race, and that was the Breeders' Cup last year, Distaff, where she just kind of simply didn't really run, didn't really fire at all. But past that, I mean, she's very, she's forwardly placed, and if not, last race she showed she can win from off of it, but and have a little bit of adversity as well. But she's just one that it seems to be getting better and better with each start. In her last 4 starts, she's won 3 of them. The only loss was Sweet Azteca, which, by the way, absolute monster. That was at a mile, mile race that day. So, I mean, this is a horse that just is. I mean, I think when you look at the field, I pretty much agree with the horses. I mean, Full Sereno is interesting. The fact that Sadler went straight to this race out of that, like, it obviously tells you what kind of probably was the plan all along, right? To get this horse into this race. And then Dr. Venkman, we had been saying it for a long time. And obviously, like, this horse is bred to go long, and look at him, and then showed that he could do it. I didn't beat anything that day, really. I mean, Arabian Night, but I mean, he packed it in the turn. But past that, I mean, didn't, like, who was in the race. He did. I like the way he won. I think he's a horse that's certainly got more upside to go. I just don't want to play him here against her. I'm nervous that he's not quite good enough. So what do you think they're going to get? What price do you think we're going to get on her overall? And it's like, it's being against the boys, so you're going to get a better price than you've been getting on her. But against a field like this, like, it's not. She's probably still going to be bet pretty hard, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think she's 8-5, isn't she?
I mean, I think that would be great if she is. I think that'd be ideal.
I think she kind of deserves to be. I think, again, it's another one. I think there's kind of 3 logical places you can go, and then it's just, okay, I got to pick what price do I like the best out of him. I mean, Dr. Venkman should probably be right around 2-1, 5-2. She should probably be 8-5, and I think Full Serrano, I don't know, 4 or 5-1, probably, like, realistically. And I kind of guess these odds. I don't look at, okay, now what that should they absolutely be? I look at it and go, okay, realistically, what are we going to get here, right? And I think that's kind of your realistic odds for those horses. And to me, the race is pretty simple. You're just going to kind of take your pick. Do you think the 6 can take him gate to wire going 1.25 miles? Do you think the 3 can sit right off and still have that same kick going 1.25 miles? And then do you think Adair Manor is just better and will be as effective going 1.25 miles? Those are kind of your 3 things. And I kept going back to Adair Manor and thinking, well, she's proven form over and over again. That's not something you can say about the other 2. Her speed figures are better than all of them. She's been 2 turns more than the 3 Dr. Venkman. So I think she's more realistic to get the 1.25 miles better, although I think the 3 can do it. I think things just kind of point to her. Oh, by the way, Bob Baffert's in her camp as well. And look, Bob Baffert entered her in this race for a reason. He thinks she's good enough to win it. So I think she gets it done here. I'm not overly concerned about it.
What I think is very intriguing about the race is not like the horses that are in here. And I'll just throw in Reincarnate because he is the stablemate of Adair Manor. But when you got these horses that are in here that are like really the main contenders, you look at Dr. Venkman in the San Diego, and the first time stretching out, what he do? He pressed Arabian Night the whole way around and then went by him and won.
Yep.
Well, look at Reincarnate. What's he like to do? Well, he likes to go be on the lead, if nothing else, press. And be right there. Full Serrano, we've seen 1 start from him and over here, but what did he do? He went to the lead and went on with it. And then what's Adair Manor like to do? Well, she typically goes to the lead and wins. Now, we have seen in the last year or so her having that versatility of coming from off of it. So my question to you is, what do you think that Bob putting Reincarnate in the race kind of says, okay, well, maybe, especially with drawing inside, maybe he sends that one. She is able to kind of have that sit off kind of race style, and then see if maybe a Dr. Venkman goes out there with Reincarnate, or Full Serrano goes out there and maybe she tries to run them down at the end.
I think Reincarnate and Full Serrano go. And I think Dr. Venkman and her kind of sit right off. That's what I would do. I would not send her in a pace duel. I'd keep her back a couple links off, assuming Reincarnate's out there, battling. And I would just go from there. I do believe that's the winning trip for her. She is versatile, so if something happens, nobody's running out front, or somebody misses the break and she falls on the lead, I think she can do it. But I think her winning trip is just kind of sit there and then hope that she's better than Dr. Venkman in the stretch. I think that my kind of vision is they're 2x2, Reincarnate and Full Serrano out front, Venkman and her kind of sitting behind, whether it's a length or 2 or 3 lengths behind, and then they go try to get pick up the pieces, in the stretch. So to me, that's what I do with her. She's drawn outside, so that's kind of the perfect draw to do just that, to do just what I laid out. So, but they break from the gates. You never really know where they're going to fall from there. But I think ideally that's kind of what I'm looking at or looking for.
Yeah, I think once, you never know if she pops the gate and catches a flyer and she's out there on the lead, you wonder if they might just try to do it. So that's the nice thing about her, is she is such a versatile horse that, you can, I think we've, like you said, it wasn't recent in her earlier in her career, it wasn't this way, but in the last, say, 5 starts, she's shown that she can really kind of sit off and still have that kick and finish the race. So yeah, the extra distance is, I guess, a question mark, so to speak. But I mean, I don't know how you watch, her, the lot, you look at the mile and eighth race, 2 back, and she just cruised home. And then last time she could have gone again, so she, I think the distance is not going to be concerned. Do you think this was more of just kind of more of a cash grab? Like, hey, we got $1 million purse, we can go win it, but she's still very much the horse to beat, or well, I guess you could even say that the horse to beat in the distaff.
It's a really good question. I think it's more of what you said first. I don't know if it's a cash grab. I mean, that's part of it for sure. But I think more so it's just Baffert is pretty good about scouting horses and where they're going and how races are going to come up. And I think he just looked at this and said, well, a filly winning the Pacific Classic would be kind of cool. That'd be a nice thing on our resume. Let's go get it, and I think that's what it is more than anything else. I mean, and again, I guess if she romps or something and she runs even better than we're expecting, then maybe you think about it. But I think more likely she'll go to the distaff and, try to win that one. And her versus Torpedo Anna, assuming a Dare Manor would win this one, let's say her against Torpedo Anna would that not be,
oh my gosh,
maybe better than the Classic?
Yeah. I mean,
maybe.
That would be insane.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's probably what they'll do. But I think a lot of us, and myself included, kind of says, well, she should win the distaff. And then you're like, oh, well, hang on. Let's wait. Let's pause a second. If Dare Manor wins here, even if she doesn't win here, frankly, but if she wins here and then goes to the distaff, you're like, well, all right, well. But in the same regard, like, I guess he would have National Treasure too. So he'd have National Treasure in the Classic. And so he might try to keep, might want to try to pull both of them and put them in their respective divisions. So I don't know. I do think it's interesting, though, because if she is that good, we saw, the year would Beholder won this race. And obviously she was going to run and ended up not. But to against the boys, but in the Classic, but maybe, I don't know. Maybe, I don't know if this is her, Dare Manor's 5. I don't know if I haven't heard anything, if this is her last year, running, if they don't try to kind of throw it all out there and see, I don't know.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. I think a lot will depend on, does parenting run again, and can he be that horse? Muth, where is he? Will he ever enter again? And if he does, can he be that horse? And I think that how his stable kind of fits will kind of tell you what he's going to do, because he's going to want to be represented in the Classic. It's just going to be, who's out there, who's left, who's running well. Okay, now we'll enter that horse there, and then all will fall from there. So he may want to run National Treasure in the Dirt Mile as well. That's a thought.
That's true. Damn near won it last year against Cody's Wish. All right, Give me your pick. Final thoughts of the Pacific Classic.
Yeah, I'm going to Dare Manor to win this thing. I don't really blame you if you try to take a shot with Dr. Venkman or Full Serrano. I really don't want her if she starts getting absolutely pounded. But I kind of think 8-5, 9-5 is where she'll fall. And if it's that, that's good enough for me. So I'm going to go for the second straight week. I'm going to go a filly / mare. I'm going to go number 7, Adair Manor.
That's right. The girls are going to finally get it done here. She about did it last week. I think it's Adair Manor. I really wanted to pick Dr. Venkman just because I did like that last effort. Thank goodness Adair Manor is in the race. I'll just say that because this would be it already is a pretty weak Pacific Classic. But if and we didn't know really for sure that she would run or enter here until, the last minute. If this was like highlighted by Dr. Venkman and Reincarnate, that would have been, so she is a huge saver of being in the race to kind of make it enticing and interesting. But give me the filly or give me the mare, number 7, Adair Manor. I think she gets it done here and is going to do it somewhat impressively. I don't know. Dr. Venkman also he's a wild card in the classic division, I think, just because if he were to because again, that was his first time going long last time, so we don't really know if he comes and uses that race to look even better this time. Then all of a sudden you're like, well, he's interesting for sure, because I do think he's a nice horse.
I do too. I think the big thing we kind of got to pause on, and I like him, so I don't want to say too much bad about him, but what was that race? How tough really? That race was all-time bad if, outside of Arabian Night, and then Arabian Night ran an all-time terrible race. He's hurt, obviously, he didn't get back. So then it's like, well, somebody did have to win when he faltered out of those other ones, and he looked good. Talking about Dr. Venkman, he did look good doing it. So maybe he's in good shape, and maybe he's progressing, or maybe he just took advantage of a race that wasn't very good and did what he should have done, which was win.
Yeah. That Katana horse was 20-1 and was made it a race, So
are you excited to bet that horse in this one?
No, no, I'm not.
That's why I thought, okay, if Adair Manor, who's absolutely proven to be solid, is 8-5, and Dr. Venkman is, let's say, 2-1 or 5-2. Okay, should I take him? And then you look and it's like, you really don't know what he is at. He's solid. And again, I like him, but is he really? What is he really?
Yeah. Yeah. We know what she is.
Right.
We really do. We know exactly what she is, but with him, you don't really know. And sacrificing a few, points basically is okay for me to get you know exactly what you're getting with her. So
yeah,
Rodney, I think the Pacific Classic might be worse.
I think it's a lot worse, honestly.
I think just because you don't have at least in the Jockey Club, you have it's top heavy, right? You got a few that are obviously one in particular, Arthur's Ride, that's really really good. And there's a couple in there. I think Tabit Trice is interesting to say that you say whatever you want about him, but he's interesting. There's a few in there, right? But this one feels like, unless she romps, I'm not really sure we even have any sort of contender for the Classic, certainly. So I don't know. I would definitely say the Pacific Classic. Like I said, thank goodness she's in the race, because imagine if we're sitting here talking about no filly, no mare in the Classic, in the Pacific Classic, and what are we working with, right? So that would have been rough.
Yep. I think the Jockey Club's better, but there's the other problem is like Dr. Venkman and Serrano, full Serrano, we just don't know. They might be okay. They might be a little bit better than we think. We think they're decent. Maybe they're a little better than decent, but we won't really know until this race. If they're both just average, and this is, let's be honest. Let's say Dr. Venkman and Full Serrano are both average horses. Just they're okay. Adair Manor's probably beaten better horses than them in the past. To me, there's a lot less question marks about Adair Manor because the talent level just isn't great in this race that we know of so far.
Right. Well, speaking of the Jockey Club, we will talk about that. Just one sec. All right, time for Rapid Fire, presented by the Pacific Classic 2024 Betting Bible, available right now over at racingdudes.com. If you guys joined us with the Travers, we had a lot of success with that one. Halsbrand was on fire early on the card as well. But you can go get the Pacific Classic Betting Bible, which is going to cover the entire card at Del Mar on Saturday. How we're playing every single race. Myself and Halsbrand are exact bets, as well as different options that you might want to bet within every race. Top 4 picks from everybody in on the team at racingdudes.com as well. Pick 4s, pick 5s, everything that you want to use to play the card on Pacific Classic Day at Del Mar. We have it available right now at racingdudes.com on the products page. Just click that button on the main menu to go get your copy now. All right, let's go back. We're gonna go back one race or one earlier on the card, I should say, at Del Mar on Saturday. Race number 5, the Del Mar Handicap. It's a grade 2. We're 300K going a mile and 3/8 on the turf. It is a Breeders' Cup win and you're in for the Longines turf, which is a little sad, right? Because this is not, in my opinion, not a great field, but we do have a field of 8. Where are you going?
Yeah, not great. I went number 7, Gold Phoenix on top, and I didn't love it. But I think stretching back out in distance makes sense for this horse. Last time out in the Eddie Reed, just didn't do much, but just kind of got too far behind. Couldn't quite get to that normal spot. The race 2 back in the Whittingham that he won, he got his position, and I think from this outside post, he should be able to get this position in this one. I want to see him like a couple links off the pace at the most. So I put number 7, Gold Phoenix on top. You're right, though. This race is not great, no matter how you slice it.
I think it's terrible, really. I mean,
okay,
I'll be the one to say it. I just, because when it comes to winning you're in, it's like, okay, great, Gold Phoenix wins, let's say, and was in. Well, all right. I mean, that's took up a spot in the gate, basically. I just hard to say. Gold Phoenix has a little bit of fierceness in him, in a sense of he likes to run. Here lately, he's been running races. Been good, then been bad, then been good, then bad. I'm picking him. I'm gonna play the 1 as well, which is in the Diamante barn. I think that horse is interesting. Kind of also runs well, then doesn't. But Eddie Reed ran okay. 2 back in the dinner party, ran well, runs well at Del Mar. But the thing is with Gold Phoenix, loves Del Mar, 2 for 2 at the distance, kind of this bread and butter here. So give me Gold Phoenix. It's like I said, it's how about our boy Rock Emperor, huh? Rock Emperor with Diamante now. Any chance there?
No, I hate that horse.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
You love him. It's like
a
love-hate thing, I think, for you.
It's more of just hate.
Well, that's sad. All right, let me pull up. There's some interesting horses. I don't Equibase. That's awesome. I don't like that field at all.
No. No, not at all.
Equibase.com is experiencing an issue. All right, hang on.
Oh, is Equibase having problems?
Yeah, Kentucky Downs Day. They're probably slammed. So
You're right. Surely not. I hard to believe Equibase having issues.
Let's go to Kentucky Downs now for race number 8. That's right, Kentucky Downs race number 8 on Saturday. This is the DK Horse Nashville Derby Invitational Grade 3. Going 1 5/16 miles on the turf for $3.1 million. Hang on, let me pull it up on the screen. $3.1 million. That's right. $3 million race Saturday at Kentucky Downs on the turf. I thought the other ones were a little more interesting, but I was like, it's $3 million race. We got to talk about this one. Field of 12 shows up here, 7-2 on Bellum Justice. Listen, it's working, right? Because they're getting horses from everywhere to come in for this thing. Because how could you not? The turf or the prices are insane, or the purses are insane. Where are you going?
Yeah, what a race here, right? Yeah, it's going to be something. I went with the number 8 Carson's Run. to win this one here. 9-2 on the morning line. This horse just won the Saratoga Derby, beat a pretty good field there. Won 2 in a row. Also won a stakes at Monmouth as well. So I went number 8, Carson's Run, to win this one. Truly, as always, as we'll say every time, a truly wide open affair. There's no doubt about it. But I like how hot Carson's Run is right now. Hopefully he gets a little bit of pace to run into and he can mow him down.
Do you have any advice? I know the answer to this, but I'll ask it for the show. Do you have any advice to somebody playing Kentucky Downs? Good advice.
Mike Maker usually does very well there. Florent Giroux usually does very well there. It feels a lot. It's a strange place. I think more mentally, the advice I can give you is I wouldn't get upset if you lose 6 races in a row. I think you got to go into it with the idea of I need to hit 1 today because the payout will be there. And, more than anything, it's the most random track in the country by far. It's not even a close second. And you just have to mentally go in with that and knowing that. Mentally go in and know this race probably isn't going to play out like I see it on paper. But one of them will eventually, and it will pay for the day. And if you go over for the day, play it again the next day and just wait for your lottery numbers to come in because that's kind of how it plays.
It's so impossible, and not on top, it's impossible to watch because the angles are all over the place and it's hard to figure out who's winning the race. And but no, but it's very fun. It's fun to watch. It's exciting every time. But I took the 6 Bellum Justum. Listen, anytime a horse that's been in the field against City of Troy, and I know he got demolished, but that tells you the class level we're talking about. And we're going over to Kentucky Downs now. Since then, the horses ran 3rd in a Group 3 at Ascot, and which a horse that won that race is supposedly pointing to the Breeders' Cup turf. And then it got 2nd by Neck last time out in a Grade 3 at Goodwood. I mean, this is a solid horse. Dettori getting the mount as well. So, I think more of a class situation. I do like the 3. 3 is kind of my Kentucky Downs special, I guess you want to say, like Navy SEAL, 20-1 in the morning line for Wesley Ward. Spencer gets the ride now, but finished 2nd on his turf debut. Well, turf over here debut, and ran really well, and kind of an international horse who kind of has that experience on interesting tracks, but going longer, but I think that might work in its favor. So I like the 3 of the long shot price Navy SEAL, but give me the 6 Bellum Justum. I gotta say it slow because I want to say Bellum Justum to win. All right, let's go to Saratoga to finish these off. 2 races left at Saratoga. We're going to go to race 11 on Saturday. This is the Spinaway Grade 1, 300K, 7 furlongs for fillies, 2-year-olds. We will have the hopeful. Obviously, I don't think it's out yet, so we won't talk about it. But we will have the hopeful on Monday. But is it Monday or Sunday? It's Monday, right?
Monday.
Yeah. But we do have the Spinaway. The Spinaway field of 11. You've got 3-1 on Quiet Side. You've got 7-2 on the Queen's MG, who started off the meet winning races here at an insane price, and now the horse is 7-2 in the Grade 1 Spinaway. So quite the feat there. But really, past that, you got prices. Kind of take your pick wherever you like. Where are you going?
Yeah, that's a pretty rare feat if the Queen's MG can win all 3 of the big 2-year-old filly races. Obviously won, like you said, the Schuylerville and then the Adirondack as a shorter price, and now coming here to this one. And I think the decision you got to make, do you want to take the established class horse like the Queen's MG, or do you want to go with like the 7 Pondering, the 11 Quiet Side, or maybe one of these other ones, Immersive or somebody like that, who doesn't have that established class but kind of has the upside? I think the experience of the Queen's MG gets it done here. I'm at number 8, the Queen's MG, back-to-back stakes wins right here at this track. And I think she makes it 3 in a row. I think, some of her other challengers, they're pretty light on the resume, or as far as just haven't had that opportunity to build one yet. So the Queen's MG may have the jump on them this time, maybe not in a month or two when these horses get more experience, but give me the 8 for this race right now.
Listen, I mean, it's insane. Not only is it insane for her to, if she were to rattle off all three, but like I said, she started off winning the Schuylerville at 44-1. I mean, just the progression she's made in each and every race, it's pretty remarkable, really. Having said that, I am going to try to beat her with a horse that she's beat. So that doesn't usually go super well, but we'll see, because this horse in the Schuylerville looked like just was so far out of it. Finally came running, got second. That's number 2, Sherbini, for Mark Cassidy, who's had a hell of a Saratoga meet, hitting at 33%, 15 winners. Flo has the mount, who's ridden her each of her 2 starts. The first race looked good, one on debut, one dominant, stretched out to 6 furlongs. Like, I thought she ran well. I mean, she was so far, not even in the picture out of it. Just needs to get a little bit. I mean, if she can just get a little bit closer early in the race, like she was on debut, I think she might have a shot here to run down the Queen's MG, getting another furlong. I did think the 5 Slang is interesting. Just the other Cassie's brother, Norm, just because we don't really know what the horse is. I thought it was interesting that Schuylerville literally got ambulanced off, and then now here we are in the Grade 1 Spinaway. I don't know if that's anything, but I think the horse obviously was bet, was in the Schuylerville, was right there with the pace, and then got intimidated, and it obviously wasn't major because she's running here. But give me the 2 Sherbini on top. I think just the upside there and the better price at 8-1 is enough for me to play. Do you think? Do we have any? No pun intended, salted, but any salty horses that you think? I mean, because the Queen's MG, like, not ultra bred, like not just kind of like having the meat of her life, so to speak. Like, but are there any horses in the race, any 2-year-olds, fillies that you're like super pumped about moving forward as we get into obviously Kentucky Oaks season as next year?
I think out of this race, you do look at Quiet Side, you look at Pondering, you look at a horse you picked, you just look at Immersive, horses like that could be coming on at the right time and could be, peaking a couple months from now versus right now. And I think those are the ones you look at out of this race. But, overall, I think that the Baffert filly out there, Noonie, who's been winning, I think she's one that you got to look at. But overall, I haven't seen just a ton that I'm, oh boy, I can't wait till she gets to the Darley Alcibiades or something like that. It's just like they're going to come around, from now on till the Breeders' Cup.
All right, let's go. Speaking of the Breeders' Cup, let's go to Sunday at Saratoga. Race number 12, the Jockey Club Gold Cup. It's a Grade 1 worth $1 million, $1.25 for the 3-year-olds and up, and it is a win and you're in for the Breeders' Cup Longines Classic. So we've got one on Saturday at the Del Mar with the Pacific Classic, and now you got one here at Saratoga. Field of 7 lines up here, 4-5 on the 7. Arthur's Ride, who just, he had his coming out party for sure in the Whitney last time out. Tapit Trice, he definitely showed that he's not done yet in that last effort, but he's going to have a big ask here against Arthur's Ride, who he's just winning off the screen lately.
When you look at how this shapes up on paper, I don't see how Arthur's Ride can lose, because he should have things all by himself and kind of dictate what he wants to do out there. And look, if he runs back to the last 2 races, I don't think they're good enough to beat him. The one thing I will say is Tapit Trice certainly woke up and looked great. But did he just take advantage of a field that wasn't very good? I think that's the big question there. Like, people like to hate on him, but they also, kind of forget he won the Tampa Bay Derby. He won the Bluegrass. So, like, when he faced horses that weren't quite as good, he did win. I think people forget that. It's just when he faced the best horses, he couldn't win. He's facing the best, older horse right now on the East Coast, seems to be Arthur's Ride. Well, he's facing him here, and can he win? Probably not. So to me, people went crazy over it, but I want to caution people. Winning a grade 3 race at Monmouth is something Tappa Trice should do. Even like, if you want to say the quote unquote bad version of Tappa Trice should win at Monmouth in a grade 3.
Right.
This is the real test for me. Can he make this competitive / win? I don't really think so. I think the 7 Arthur's Ride, I think he wins it pretty easily, doesn't he?
I mean, I think if we can get 4 to 5, I am betting that all day. I'll put it that way.
I agree.
I don't think there's any. I don't see. I'm with you. I don't see how he loses. Even a horse, if you are worried about Tappa Trice, I'm not. But if you were, even if you're worried, say Bright Future, he ran shitty in the Whitney, but he's got races under his belly. Of course, he won the race last year. They're gonna have to come get him, and I just, those aren't really the horses that come get a horse like Arthur's Ride, So he's gonna have to not run and for them to get him. He's random. That's the other thing too. He's like he 2 back. I mean, yeah, the Whitney was 1.8 miles, but 2 back, he ran 1.25 miles and won by 13 lengths. I mean, it wasn't even close. I don't, and he's also versatile. I mean, if you are worried, I'm not. But if it does rain, I mean, he's won twice, or he's won on muddy last time out. He's won on fast. I mean, so he's a Tappet, right? So, yeah, he just seems like that kind of horse, which is funny because these 4-year-old Tappets, man, they figure their shit out. They do, and he obviously has got his stuff figured out. So I think he is going to be borderline impossible to beat.
I mean, the only thing I'll say of that, remember Kentucky Derby week, we had him. It's like, okay, this is going to be a nice, a nice cash for us. This should be fun. And he was in allowance, really easy race, and he got like 7th. So like,
dude, he got beat. He finished 9th. He got beaten 23 lengths.
Right.
Like, yeah, if he does that, then yeah, I mean, he's never winning. Like, assuming he brings his race, because his 2, it took him 3 tries to break his maiden. Past that, the horse has never even sniffed losing again. So It's like, I mean, past the 1 loss, right? Or the where you just didn't even fire. So yeah, I mean, you're at a 57 buyer, and the one before that you're in a 101 buyer, and the one after you're in a 111 buyer. So it's like whatever happened, but you can't predict that.
Quick 2 things. Quick thing, correction. There is not a 70% chance of rain on Sunday. Rob, this race is on Sunday, not Saturday. So there's a 70% chance of rain Saturday. Sunday, just a 24% chance. So the rain may not matter because I don't think it's going to on Sunday.
How do you feel about Hey Ho? Fierceness. I mean, this is a horse that he's been solid. Yeah. He rattled off several wins in a row. He got to Stephen Foster, ran well again, but Kings Barnes obviously did his thing. I like him underneath. I think he could run well and finish underneath. I don't know that he's good enough to win, right? But
I think if Arthur's Ride doesn't run very well, he is. And I think if Arthur's Ride does, no.
Well, I could think you could say that about Tappa Trice. You could say that about Bright Future. You could say that Highland Falls. I mean, if like these all could win, but you're basically assuming Arthur's Ride is either a phony or is not going to fire.
Yeah, and Rob's comment, he's still skeptical. I kind of am too, because that horse, I'm still mad about what happened there at Churchill Downs that day, which the one thing I was going to say, it's like, it does show you what happens on that weekend at Churchill Downs. It just doesn't carry over a lot of times. And it's not just the Derby, it's everything. There's weird results that happen. Anyway, yeah, look, all you can go is by, okay, he's been up here twice this year, and either one of those races that he ran up here at Saratoga this year wins this easy. And then if he doesn't run, then I think a horse like the 5 is probably your next best bet. I mean, especially if he's 8-1 versus, a couple others that would be lower.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, in horses, like, it's like, okay, if the horses that came back out of the race sucked, well, he also beat them by 12. So it's like, yeah, if he won by a length, and yeah, then you're like, well, yeah. He also won the Grade 1 Whitney.
Yeah, he won the Whitney. So,
I mean, there's that, So regardless of who was in the race, winning the Whitney's winning the Whitney. So and he did it somewhat dominant as well, I thought. So I think Arthur's Ride is the real deal. I think he'll prove it here. I mean, I don't know if he proves anything honestly in this race, but that's another issue with him is we already have this kind of stigma attached to him. Well, he didn't beat anything in the allowance, and the Whitney sucked, and this race sucked, and then you get to the Classic, and he, so I assume they'll run to the Classic after this, but now you're talking about two straight grade ones heading into another grade one, and a lot of probably people that are on either side of it, and so he will be an interesting horse after this race for sure.
Yep, no doubt.
All right, we're both on number 7, Arthur's Ride, to win the Jockey Club Gold Cup and get a ticket to the Breeders' Cup.
Yeah, it's one thing that somebody told me. I'm not gonna say it was. He's a good guy. Somebody told me I just can't support Torpedo Anna. I mean, you looked at how Candied came back, and these horses that have beaten their comeback, and they've been okay, but they just haven't been very good. And it's like, well, they're winning, number one. But okay, yeah. And I said, yeah, and you're right. And she was so close to losing to them, like razor thin margin to losing to Candied and Power Squeeze and all these horses. Like it was so close and so desperate to hit the wire. And he's like, no, it wasn't. She beat him like crazy. I said, exactly. That's what does it matter how they came back? They weren't even in the same zip code,
Exactly.
So, and it's just like, if you're beating them by a half length or a length and then they come back and they're not very good, I get it. But like, if you're beating them by 6 with not even a hand ride, you don't get asked, and you have to watch. You have to watch the races. You can't just say, well, they're no good because they've beaten nobody that's no good, So
that's always a funny line. And it goes in the same category of like, we've talked about it on the show a lot where, a horse gets a 111 and like Arthur's Ride, and then because of that, even though the horse got beat by 10, it got a 98 or whatever, Yeah. And it's like, well, you know what I mean? Like that's so sometimes it doesn't really matter that you got a 98. Like, how did it look at the race? Like, watch the race.
I think a lot of people, based on the YouTube comments, got I don't know what the word is, got wrapped up in the fact that Torpedo Anna had never broke 100 for a buyer. And I even said here that is a concern because we haven't seen her do it, like physically seen her do it, right?
Yeah.
But it's like logic tells you as long as she will respond to, having to go get a horse or having to look a horse in the eye and keep going, she's more than capable of running a 105. I didn't think maybe a 111 to be honest, but a 105 or 106 here. Like if you watch her Acorn and they gave her a 99 for that, how in the world can you not think she can run 3 points better if they just do this, shake the reins once at her, So it does. It's the same thing. It goes back. You got to watch the races. The numbers are great, but I think people take the numbers way too serious sometimes because they just see the number and they don't really know the context of what happened,
Right. I know. It's we get a little too wrapped up in them, I think. It's like,
yeah. And then then they blame the number, like these damn numbers. It's like, well, a number is just I mean, it's just somebody assigning a number to what they thought the final time was versus maybe like track bias or pace or whatever. It's like they can't go in there and say, well, she would have done this. She would have done that. That's where the handicapping comes into it,
Well, have you ever heard of someone agree? Like, it's always like the number's too low or it's too high. There's never someone's like, well, that's about right. It's like, no, I think there's no way that number's right.
Right.
It's all, and that just completely goes back to it's all like opinion, like what's your opinion? Like, is that a good number or a bad number?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I think people, they go too far one way or another with it. They'll go, I don't care what they say now after that. But it's like, yeah, but there's always a middle ground. They're not the end all be all by far. They're not the only aspect. There's a lot of people just, that's it. That's the number. That's it. Every time, thoroughgraph patterns and stuff like that. It's like, that is one minute little thing to look at, in the grand scheme of things. So and sometimes they'll surprise you and they'll pop a number and you're like, wow, that's incredible. And sometimes they'll bounce on a time where you don't think they're going to bounce because they're animals and you just don't know.
This is true. All right, guys, that's all the time we have. Check us out at racingdudes.com for our free picks. And, of course, our premium selections on the products page. Click the Get Racing Dudes premium button at the menu at racingdudes.com to learn more. Go check out the betting Bible for the Pacific Classic, how we're going to bet the actual Pacific Classic as well as all the stakes action. It's a lot of stakes on the card. 11 races. We'll have coverage for every single one of them, how we're going to bet each and every one of them. We got exactas and trifectas and our long shots and bets. You name it, as well as how we hone in on like, okay, this is the one pick or one bet that I'm probably going to play in this race. And so if you want to follow along with those, or if you want to use those for your own, it's like totally up to you. We've got top 4 from everybody at racingdudes.com included. And listen, the good news is I can't get second. I guess I could get second more than I did last week.
Good.
I mean, that was the most frustrating. I mean, it's like I was so right and so wrong every race. Like, I never had a horse that's just like completely didn't run, like just like, oh, that was a terrible pick. No, like the horse would run and run well and then get second. And so it was just constant. So hopefully we can get back on the win wagon here as we head into the Pacific Classic. So go get it. It is for free as well if you are a premium subscriber. We're on Twitter at Racing_Dudes, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. You can find all episodes of Blinkers Off by visiting our podcast page, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the places you listen to. We are there. YouTube page. Go check out YouTube and hit that like notification button and subscribe. If you are watching us live right now, we appreciate it. So if you are watching this after or listening to this after the fact on the pod version, make sure you go to YouTube and subscribe. Due to bet, you guys went over college football. The Magic Mike Show will be on here after a while in a couple hours to talk Pick 5 at Del Mar as well. But Halterman, give us a little teaser about the college football podcast.
Yeah, it's coming up, or it is now. You can go watch it now or listen to it now. And it was all week 1 college football. We went over the top 25, and then we went through some other games that we kind of found interesting. And, what a season it's going to be for college football. The first time ever that we are actually going to have a real playoff. So we'll see how all that plays out. Of course, 12 teams going to be in it this year. So that's very exciting to finally kind of have that. And conference realignment in full force as well. So a lot to discuss. And I thought there was a good blend of favorites and underdogs picked there for week 1. So I think it's going to be pretty fascinating. We already had a big upset. Florida State got beat week 1 over in Dublin. Georgia Tech was able to take them down.
That was, it's full. And next week we'll be talking NFL. We are 1 week away from today from the Chiefs and the Ravens. So it's going to be exciting. It's going to be here. It's here, but the NFL is going to be definitely here. And next thing you know, it's going to be, end of October. All right. Yeah. Speaking of football, big game tonight for the Falcons. Falcons are playing tonight. That, of course, is in the K-1 division, flag football, tonight in Springfield, Missouri. If you're in attendance, we appreciate it. But no, Falcons, let's see. I don't know what the official who's at home, who's away here. I think it's the Falcons. We play the Jets. Yeah, Jets at the Falcons. No, I'm sorry. Home team is the Jets. Jets and the Falcons are visiting. So there you go. First game of the season. We had our first practice on Tuesday.
It's good.
It's too bad. We don't have our friend in here to talk about this. He could help me with it. But listen, the Jets they played week 1. They got beat. I don't know what the score was. It was like 30-6. We had our first practice. We've had one practice. Where are you leaning here?
Well, you guys are second graders against kindergartners, so I will take the second graders. I'll take the Falcons.
I mean, we should win every game.
Yeah, I would think.
I liked what I saw. Somewhat. My son he's gonna be the QB for sure. Cohen, he's a beast. But yeah, we'll see. I've got some speed around him a little bit, so you really just need one kid. But my issue is going to be just trying to get them to like just run a play, right?
Well, imagine what the kindergartner coach is going to be thinking too.
Dude,
Trying to get them to walk out onto the field might be hard for the kindergartners.
Well, here's the thing. Like, so we got moved down, right? Because they needed an extra team, and they moved like the new team or whatever down for some reason. And so then that included like, oh, Coop wants to play my youngest, which is in actually kindergarten. And so like, yeah, like it'd be fun to have them both on the team, whatever. Like we'll have him play too. Well, having him at practice the other day with all my other second graders, it was like, how are they doing that with his age? I'm like, because it's a lot to go over. It's like, all right, you're the X, you're the Y. Here's the you run this, So supposedly all they do, basically every team runs the ball because that's all they can really figure out, right?
Oh, really? Okay.
So let me run through I've got my first 7 plays. No, I don't really have my first 7, but I have my plan. We're gonna run the ball to start the game. We're gonna run it probably maybe the first 3 plays. We're gonna really sell the run, okay? And then we're gonna hit him with the play action. And then from there, it's just I'm going spread offense, and we're just gonna air it out because Cohen's got a cannon. So
you sent me a picture today of your kindergartner and your second grader, right?
Yeah, there you go. And I would say Coop is average. He's gotten taller lately, so he's probably about average size.
Your second grader is a foot taller. So if you're playing kids that are a foot, just lob the ball up to one of the other big kids.
I know.
You don't need a game plan. They're not going to be able to cover you.
I told Cohen
they're tiny.
On defense, I told Cohen, I said, I just want you to play in the middle of the field, almost like a rover, just as a zone, and I said, just watch the quarterback. If they do decide to throw it, you'll hunt that down, no doubt. And then if he runs it, well, then you just go chase him down. But it should be interesting. It's the first. I've coached soccer games for years, but first flag football, so that'll be. I'll tell you what, though, it's fun. It's just more football's more fun, right? I mean, it was fun throwing the football around and having plays and doing the drills and all that stuff. It's like, yeah, this is way more fun than soccer.
Yeah. Oh, I would think so. Yeah, I would much rather be out there doing that for sure. And I think Cohen will have more fun because I think he's more into football, is he not?
Well, I mean, listen, he's extremely talented athlete. I think he just has that. But the one thing about that I saw from him the other day at practice is the mental part. Like he gets it, right? When I was going over plays with them, and I was like, I was like, because at first you're like, well, I want to play quarterback. I want to play, like they want to try, and you're like, no, Cohen's playing. Because this kid's over here calling plays. Yeah. And I'm like, hey, now this time I want you to sell the fake. And then he's like, and he'll go, oh, okay, and he'll do it and he'll sell it. And it's just like, he gets it. Because he knows the purpose of why. And again, I get it. It's kindergarten. But just from my son and kind of developing him as he gets older, I think he is built to this kind of sport, where he uses his brain a little bit.
Yeah, and he plays it on video games. That helps a lot too.
What's funny is whenever he doesn't know positions like ultra well. I mean, he knows like receiver, running back, all that stuff, but he doesn't know. Hey, I want you to play corner. I want you to play safety. He doesn't that stuff. So I said, well, here's what I want you to do. He's like, well, who am I? And I said, well, you're McDuffie. And he's like, oh, okay,
yeah.
So you just know, like whoever Chiefs guy, he knows, he knows like, oh, you're Reed. Oh, yeah, okay. You're Chris Jones. Oh, you want me on the line? All right, I got it.
Yeah.
So it's like that's how you relate. So it's funny.
But again, that comes from playing video games. So I'm sure he'll be fine. And I would say this is a good introduction to him. As far as playing kids that he's much bigger than every game.
And what's funny is our whole team is he just turned 8, though everyone else on the team is 7. I think they turn 8 like later this year, like beginning of next year. But So he's the oldest on the team, obviously the biggest one. And they were all like, we did drills. And then when he got the ball and threw it, I heard one parent was like, whoa. And it's like, yeah, like he throws a tight spot. Like he can throw the ball. And so I kind of at that borderline of like, oh yeah, let's let everyone have a chance. And now I'm like, no, Cohen, you're playing quarterback.
Yeah.
And when we get up 30, I'll pull you out and you can play wide receiver.
Well, and I would also tell him, if you want to coach the team, go right ahead. I didn't want to do this anyway.
Yeah, right. Right? I'm like, I did clearly not volunteer for this.
No. So if you want to take over, please take it.
Just throw my clipboard, So.
Right. Yeah. Here you go.
Here you go. So, all right. So we'll report back on, I guess, next week, and we'll see how we did.
Okay.
I'll text you though. And
right.
You're gonna be there though, right? So I'll let you know.
Yeah, leaving here in just a second. Gonna head there for sure. Don't wait on me though. Go ahead and start if I'm not there.
Yeah, it was and it was funny too this morning because like when we were in school, like game day, you wear your jersey or whatever, like Thursday or Friday, in junior high it's Thursdays or whatever, but Fridays in high school and stuff. And so I told the boys. And that's one thing. It's like official NFL flag football league or whatever, So like we're actually the Falcons, and the jerseys are sweet. They're like that dry fit, reversible. For one side's red, one side's black, and like they're slick, right? And so when it got them, they're like, "Oh, these are so cool." I want to wear them. And so I was like, "Well, Thursday it's game day, so you can wear them to school." And so they were just so psyched to put them on, and they were walking around in the house, and Cooper went and got he's got a shark tooth necklace that we got at the beach. And he's like, "Hey Dad, can I put this on too?" I said, "Oh yeah." Yeah. So he's rocking the shark tooth necklace with his Falcons jersey. It's so funny.
He's tougher than the regular Falcons.
Yeah, right. I need to get him like a little gold chain, like an actual, a little fake gold chain to wear on game days. So
or a real one.
Oh well, yeah. I told him that we could roll up to the game today, and like they can have suits on.
There you go.
Have like press and stuff. They go to the locker room, get dressed, the whole thing.
It'll be an experience for them. There's no doubt.
We'll see. Doesn't feel like it's football weather, but
no.
we're gonna get through it. All right, guys. Until next time, I'm Jared Welch. He is Aaron Halterman. Good luck this weekend, and good luck in the Pacific Classic. See you guys.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Blinkers Off. Join our horse racing community at racingdudes.com and follow us on Twitter at @racing_dudes. Want to make money betting horses? Bet with the Racing Dudes.